writing for your life. Later, there will be time to be curious. Later, we can see what awake us or what insisted itself. After writing like this for a long time, it will be appropriate to look back and see what has engaged us with and intruded into our daily life. What obsessions or fascination propelled us, but at this moment, try only to be present and to allow the words to emerge. If you have never kept a journal, this may be the time to begin. Keeping a journal isn't so difficult beginning to keep. It is the challenge. It has always been easy for me to keep a travel journal. When I am a foreign place, I, I appreciate the journal's familiar presence. It is the close friend to whom I can confident everything and convey my experience. One way to start a regular journal is to imagine that you are traveling for the first week. Follows this sequence. Imagine that your daily life is occurring in a foreign country. Carry a journal with you wherever you go and write in whenever you have a moment. At the beginning or end of the day, online in a supermarket, waiting for transportation in a restaurant, and so on. Write anything and everything, snatches of conversations, observations, concerns, dreams, plans, lines of poems, letters, newspaper headlines. Allow yourself to record anything and everything without judging its appropriateness or meaning. As they become comfortable, expand the journal by adding emotional responses and observations. Enter into dialogue with the things you have seen and heard. Next, experiment with thinking in the journal, with recording ideas and exploring them. Finally, consider the journal as a place where beginning fiction or snatches of poems may not only be recorded but explored and developed. If we imagine that our daily life is occurring in a foreign country, we will be like travelers, exceedingly attentive to every detail, curious about the meaning of everything, and enthusiastic about experience, no matter what its quality. At the end of your trip, you will be able to look back over the journal to discover what you have seen, what has obsessed and fascinated you, and what, if anything, you wish to make of it. The writing we are doing here may remain in journal form forever. It may occur in the moment and never be considered again, or it may be the beginning of a longer piece. It may be addressed to another individual in letter or a poem, or to the world eventually in the form of novel. But in this moment, we need think of none of this, only of the words presenting themselves and our willingness to set them all. Becoming a writer. When I was quite young, I promised myself that I would become a writer. Later, when I was despair of this possibility, I threw myself a challenge. If I could write a novel, by the time I was 25, I might become a novelist. But if I failed to embark upon this project by that time, then I would forgo the possibility of a creative life. At 25, I had just had a child and I was pregnant again. I had started graduate school, was involved in politics, and was trying to be attentive to my married life, as well as several friendships, but the challenge remained with me and weighed heavily on my conscience, and ultimately I started a novel, Waterwall, which I eventually relegated to a file cabinet. After After I like to say that I was blessed by not knowing that the novel was Novel Week and naive, because if I had known how undeveloped it was, I would never have written anything more. But something else happened in beginning this novel that was far more important than the book itself. Where formerly I had thought of myself as someone who would never write a book, I now began to think of myself as a writer. The writer is above all else to construct a self. Only secondly is it to record one's history, to express feelings and ideas, to create characters, or to communicate with others. Journal entries and life histories, as well as fictions, poems, and plays, are variation on the most fundamental human need to know oneself deeply and in relationship to the world. Beginning that requisite first novel, that commentary on my adolescent life, was evidence of serious commitment to discover who I was and how I sought to the world. 15 years later, I was perplexed by the form of a piece I was writing by shape and direction. Still, I was uneasy. I didn't know that what the piece was. Finally, I heard a voice inside say, "It's poem." Another voice, more familiarly mine, asked, "How do you know?" Because I wrote it and I have become a poet. The voice whispered shyly. Those 15 years were an important period of transition and development. Within that time, I had not only to write, but to learn something about the life of a poet. That is the life that would feed and support the work. It was not easy to do. Dynamite Saga. Either circumstances always mitigated against poetry, and it was difficult to give the work the priority it needed, but ultimately, two things emerged. First, the beginnings of a body of work that seemed to arise from responses to inner urgencies, and second, and just as important, a life that was conscious and aware and that bore the shape of a writer. Beginning. The first and foremost question a writer, public or intimate, must ask is, what must I say? To begin to know. The answer to this question is to begin to know the essential self. What must I say? What must I say? What must I say? What must I say? And finally, what must I say to you? The beginning, something wants to be said. We don't know what it is or what shape. It desires an inchoate feeling, a pressure around the heart. Perhaps asking it to open, we pick up a pen or sit down at the computer. This is the moment, right? No matter what. Write, don't try to name it in advance, don't call it play, or journal writing or poem. Don't ask it to have a form or to be spelled correctly, or to appear in sentence, but it write in pen so that you can erase it and promise as a way of showing respect that it will not be thrown away. The beginning a blank page, it feels as if we will sit before it forever. Then let us sit before it forever. Let us sit before it until we can no longer resist writing. This beginning is important. Is it a rate we are trying to catch a swirl of smoke and inspiration, just the barest bit of something coming into ourselves or going out. The journal as a dialogue with the sound. Write anything for 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what. Write as if you are walking in an unknown woods alternative to anything you might see or packing at an indistinct mass wondering what it is, whether it is alive or dead, whether it will snark, suddenly turn and bite. Keep writing. Let the writing feel welcome. Keep writing. Don't look back. Don't edit. Don't think of what it might be. Could be. Don't think only welcome. It make a place for it to be. Writing for your life. Let us go with respect and with the commitment that we will not exploit it, colonize it, or decimate it, that we will honor what it offers us, that we will use it in keeping with the principles of territory, and that we will think of its treasures as gifts to us that we will pass on. In this way, we will be able to transform inner exploration into public concern.